Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a first ever financial ruin tier list. Now, I've been watching finance YouTube for a while and I haven't seen Graham Stephan or like Humphrey Yang or that one guy that'll teach you to be rich ever do this. I've gathered a bunch of items that are pretty common that people do, and we're going to rate them on how financially destructive they can be. For each category, I'm going to pair it with a TikTok and some statistics, and then we're going to rank it after we go through it. A lot of these need to be explained, and there's some nuance to each one. So let's get started. So let's start with one of my favorites, cars.
All right, y'all, so I need opinions on something I should do financially. So I don't work a whole lot right now. I work part-time because I have kids and, childcare and everything's really expensive. And one of my biggest bills right now is my car payment. I have a $500 car payment that I have to pay for the next 4 years still. I still have 4 years on it. But the thing is I also have 2 other cars that are paid off. And both of them are in running condition. One of them has to have a serpentine belt and some tires. And then my other one, there's nothing really wrong with my other one, the one I'm in now.
All right, I got to stop it right there. So I don't know what's worse, either the face tat or maybe the $500 car payment. That's half of our income. It's probably the latter, but who knows? So I've already made a car video, so you could check it out after, but new cars and the new car payments are about $700, almost $750. And then even a used one is $550. And that's with loans stretching out longer and longer and longer. So not only are car payments taking away, and there's an opportunity cost with paying that instead of investing the money, it could be pretty financially ruining. Not to mention in the first 5 years, the car depreciates on average like 60%. So partially because of how common it is and how much it can take away from your wealth building, I'm going to put cars in A tier. All right, we're just going to keep going along the trifecta of American debt, and we're going to do credit cards. But first, I wanted to shout out the new subscribers that are coming on board. If you like the content so far, just subscribe because I'm going to be pumping out a bunch of these new videos. But for now, let's just start on the credit cards.
There was a point in time when I was $50,000 in credit card debt. My minimum monthly payments just to those credit cards was like $1,200 a month, just for the freaking bare minimum. And if you have never looked at a credit card statement to see how much interest you're actually paying, if you only pay the bare minimum until the card is paid off, and also how long it's going to take you, like 15, 20 years, and you'll pay like more than tripled what you actually have on the balance, it is like insane to think about. Okay, so however much credit card debt or personal loan or student loan or whatever it is, however much debt you have right now where you just feel like gut wrenched making that minimum payment, or obviously or hopefully like above and beyond the minimum payment to actually pay it down like sooner than later one day, like just think of the opportunities and what else you could be doing with that money. And I don't say this to shame you of like, oh, you shouldn't be in debt. Like, no, that's not what this is about. I'm not guilting you in any way. I was in the exact same boat, clearly.
So she hit the nail right on the head. She's talking about the opportunity cost for buying all this stuff. So for example, that car one, you're paying like $600 a month. That really could be going towards investments or other things. Now, we can't talk about financial ruin without credit cards, and credit cards are climbing and the balances are at about $1.1 trillion right now in the US. Now, these balances jumped 10% recently, and there's no signs of slowing down. With the average balance hitting around $6,300, that can definitely weigh on somebody's finances, if not be total destruction. So I did a faux little calculation here, and I put in the 6,300-ish in at like the average 24% APR and $200 minimum monthly, and paid it off in 4 years. And you're paying about $4,000 in interest. That's a lot of money in the 5 years of just burning into thin air. No, that interest is not going to you. It's going to the banks. And that's if you pay it in 4 years. Some people just pay the minimums and keep racking it up and keep the balance up, and it just never gets paid off. You're just paying that over and over and over again. So again, with the commonality of the credit cards and how much it can really snowball against you, I'm going to put it in absolute financial destruction. Okay? Tell me if you would put it in the same one, because I think this one is an absolute destruction. This is, if you're carrying a balance month to month, it's just going to keep bearing you until you can't do it anymore. All right, now the next one's a little controversial. I know you see the cap and gown there, and yes, I'm talking about student loans. Now, like I said before, this one's going to have a lot of nuance, okay? The best one to really describe this one is if somebody has an extraordinary amount of student loans, or even just the average amount, because the average amount is around 37 grand-ish. But if you have a big chunk of student loans and you're not even using your degree, or you're not getting the ROI on the degree, it can be a huge financial burden for you. Now, I'm not saying college is bad, because that's been like kind of a newer narrative around here. And like you could tell me your thoughts, but I don't necessarily think college is bad as a whole. We just need to educate people on this loan system and the ROI for each major. Let's take a look at this girl's student loans. This is an extreme case, so just bear with me.
I just checked my student loans because I needed to get the information to someone, and what the fuck? I started with $80,000. I have been paying for 10 years. Last year, I paid $6,000 lump sum because that's really the only way to get it low. That took it down to $76,000 after I've been paying for 9 years. The grand total is I have paid $120,000 and I still owe $76,000. How fuck is this?
Now, of course, that's an extreme case, but it is a lesson. Always check your balances on everything. That goes for credit cards, car loans, student loans. You should be checking these things monthly, if not every couple months, just to see how much interest you're paying and what the loan looks like. Don't be afraid of it. You need to look at this stuff. Now, since this one has so much nuance, I'm going to kind of put it in the middle ground here. I think it's a B tier. This can really go any way, and you have to really look at the ROI with your major mostly. And we can do a video on that, on ROIs. Like, let me know down in the comments if you want me to do a video on that. I think it'd be really interesting to see a lot of the majors and what they're coming out with these days with salaries and stuff like that. So B tier, I think that's right. Uh-oh. Yes, I know. You see that down there. Now that one is not just Starbucks. It's mostly like any habit or thing that you do either on a daily or semi-daily basis. It could be Starbucks or Zins or energy drinks. You know who you are. And I'm definitely guilty of some of these myself, so I can't, be too lenient on myself. So let's dive into this one.
So on my way to work this morning, I decided to stop and get a drink from Starbucks. My close friend posted it on her story, and I'm like, let me try that because it looks really good. So number one, when I got to the line and he took my order, I asked for a venti. I thought that was just like a small, because I hear people say it all the time. It was $8. But anyway, let's try it. When I say glory to God, hallelujah, this gave me a new tongue. Hey, Shoutout. This is the best drink I ever. Glory to God. This every day I get in my mouth.
Yeah, so that guy's gonna do it every day now. And just like this person right here, it says their daily Starbucks costs them $2,300 a year. And that's no little amount of money. And again, those are some extreme cases, but here and there, when you get these little sweet treats and stuff like that, it's obviously not financial destruction. In fact, I'm going to put it on the so-so. All right, that's something that you could probably clean up, and it's not going to make a huge difference in your life if you save an extra $500. So it's going to go in the so-so. All right, now I bet you were wondering what that little piggy is doing down there with the little coins going into them, and if you guessed savings account, you'd be right. Now, I know people are gonna be like, oh, savings account, like that's good. How can that ever be a financial burden on you? I hate to say it, but this particular one also has a little nuance. It's if you are using a savings account to put all of your money or a huge chunk of your money in, like at these huge banks that give you like 0.01 cent, that 30 cents you get a year is really not going to get you anywhere, and you're probably going to be losing to inflation. In fact, you are losing money to inflation. So this one is mainly just a low yield savings account. And if you put a lot of money in, or some people who, I don't know how common this is anymore, but some people who just stuff cash under their mattress, that could be bad. You are literally losing money, losing the power of the dollar, and you're not investing. That's a huge opportunity cost. You need to be using that money for investments. Obviously, you should have an emergency fund, but put that in a high yield. You can get 5% return in a high yield. So I originally thought I was going to put it in so-so, but I actually think if you put a huge chunk of your money and you just don't touch it, and not including your emergency fund. I'm talking about funds beyond that. Just all your money, and you're neglecting investing, and you're just putting it in 0.01 percentage. I'm going to put it in C tier. I think it's actually really, really bad. All right, now we're getting into the controversial one. I know what you're thinking. Now, this one also, just like the student loans, this one has a lot of nuance, okay? Now, for this one, it's mainly focused on people who buy a house and they immediately become house poor because they bought too much house. And when you buy too much house, it creates a huge risk and an opportunity cost to invest, and even if in extreme cases, pay your bills. So yes, real estate can be a great tool to build wealth and save on rent in the long run, but a house can ultimately be financially bad for somebody. Let's take a look at this guy that teaches us to be rich and see what he says.
This is how people get into trouble. It's called being house poor. They spend too much on a house. They don't anticipate the phantom costs, all these hidden costs. And suddenly they wake up one day, they go, why do I make $75,000 or $150,000 and we can't afford anything? Why can't we save anything? And they agonize over our spend at Target and, oh, we're spending too much on bread. It's not that. It's typically the two things people overspend on way too much, which is housing and cars. And so when it comes to our finances, I want people to take control. I want you to stop worrying about the price of an extra appetizer. That's irrelevant in the grand scheme. It's these big things, your house, your car, and your investment fees that really move the needle.
Man, it's almost like that guy should do a tier list. So if you look at more recent statistics, and I do have a housing video on this one, you can go check that one out after too, but the newer median household mortgage payments as a percentage of median income is actually pretty high right now with the interest rates. So a lot of people who are getting into these homes right now are probably house poor. And that can be a huge burden on your finances. Just like student loans, just because there's so much variability to this one, I'm gonna put it in the B tier. It depends on your situation. It can be absolutely destructive and you can foreclose, or it can be really, really good investment. I mean, maybe I'll make a financial prosperity tier list. Like the video or comment like if you want me to do that one, because I think this one's a house is gonna be on financial prosperity too. So I'm gonna put it in the B tier just because of the nuance. Now I see you reading that payday loan down below. Yes, we're doing payday loans. Now, most of the time, or a lot of the time, people who use payday loans are doing it for necessity things like food, rent, or utilities, stuff like that. And the APRs on these ones are insane. They're like 400%. Usually they're like $100 to $1,000, like within those range, or they could be more. And you pay them off in a couple weeks, but you're paying an insane rate. And if you're already in a bad financial spot, it can kind of snowball like credit cards, or just put you way deeper in the hole. So let's look at this guy on Caleb and see what he did.
You don't take out a payday loan for a couch.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, maybe you were months and months behind on rent, and they said, we are evicting you.
No.
Your dad gave you $1,800 to pay off a payday loan.
Good.
Yeah.
How are you the responsible one of the relationship if we're taking out a payday loan?
Well, the reason why
payday loan is
Share
like
pills
the
like it.
worst loan you can get anywhere, besides like going into like a mobster
See,
hangout.
but I also didn't have good credit, so it's not like I can go into a bank and get a loan.
There was no need for the payday loan, but you, the responsible one of the relationship, took out a payday loan.
Yeah, but I wanted a couch.
He wanted the couch. He's got the payday. So that's not an example of somebody who needed it for like necessities or bills. I mean, you could sit on the floor, I guess, but yeah, a couch is not a necessity. You should not be taking a payday loan for a couch. So although payday loans aren't very common, or is not as common as cars or credit card balances and stuff, I'm gonna still put it on financial destruction, because if you're using one of these, you are already in a bad spot, or you probably are in a bad spot, and these are just gonna bury you way faster. So you should absolutely never ever take out a payday loan. Another big one that we have next is renting. Now, this one is another huge chunk for people, and it's like extremely common. Now, rents have increased to almost $2,000 median in the United States. with the Northeast and West hovering around $2,400 for the median rent. Now, rent can be a huge financially destructive thing. If you're getting rent that you just can't afford, and I know it's hard, but you need to be putting yourself in a situation and in an area where you can afford. Now, let's see if this girl is within her budget.
So my lease ends in like 7 days, and I told this bitch I don't want to spend more than $2,200, and she was taking me up to this room, and she was like, oh my god, you're gonna love it. It's a 1-bedroom, it's $2,800, but it has a big balcony. Oh, it has a big balcony, bitch. Does it? You know what else is big? No? Okay, let me tell you what's not. The bank account, the budget, the credit score, the patience, bitch. Why don't you take the keys to Miss 2,800, not including parking and utilities, and shove it up here?
She seemed nice, but yeah, you know, don't go for that balcony. If it's out of your budget and it's got a big balcony, don't stretch the budget for the balcony. All right, so rent can be really, really bad if you don't do it right and you're not within budget. So again, I'm kind of taking into account how common it is and how much of a big financial burden and chunk you are and how much of an opportunity cost you're losing for investing. And since rent is pretty high, I'm A or B. I'm gonna put it in B. Again, there's a little bit of nuance there. In some areas you can't avoid that $2,000 payment. You can get roommates and stuff, and it can be pretty bad. But this is one thing that I think belongs in the B tier. Now, shopping. Okay, this one is going to be like consumer products like iPhones and clothes and all that kind of good stuff, or even like concerts or vacations and stuff like that. This is just like the normal consumer stuff category. And you know me, I'm going to take the extreme case with the TikTok, so let's check this one out.
Come along with me and watch my fiance give me full-blown princess treatment. We originally went anniversary shopping for each other, but of course he is so simple and he just really outdid himself. So the first store that we went into was Aloe, and this was actually his first time ever going into this store, and he really liked it, which I'm happy about because Aloe is one of my favorite brands ever. He ended up getting a hat, 2 sweatshorts, a shirt, and I got 1 sweatpants and a shirt. The next store was Fendi, and I was looking for a new pair of sunglasses, and I really liked this one, but it was brown, so I ended up getting it in a black color because I love black everything. And then after that, we went into Louis Vuitton. We were just browsing. We didn't get anything, but we did fall in love with these UFO speakers. They were so nice and loud, but yeah, they were almost $4,000, so we weren't about to do that.
No, definitely get those $4,000 speakers. What do you mean? They're UFO speakers. Yeah, so I mean, that one's an extreme case, and the American consumer is like still spending. It's still going up every quarter in the US, and I mean, it's a pretty big problem. I mean, people buy a bunch of crap that they don't need. Now, again, this one is so common, and there's a little less nuance to this one. This one is more frivolous. I mean, it can really just contribute to your credit card spending. I'm thinking of putting it in A because I just think that things that you don't need, and it definitely doesn't help your finances, buying like stuff like that. I'm going to put it in the A. I was thinking B, but I think it goes in the A. Now, the next two are going to be pretty quick. They both deal with food. The first one is going to be like Doordashing and restaurants and just spending on food in general. I'm not talking about groceries, more so like going out to restaurants and Doordash. So this one is pretty common, and it can be a habit that people use a lot. I don't have a TikTok for this one or any stats, but I'm going to just put it in the C tier. I think it can add up a lot, especially in the long run, and it's not necessarily a necessity. So I'm going to put it in the C tier. And avocado toast, I mean, this is definitely destruction. I'm just kidding. Avocado toast, I'm going to put in the so. I know it's kind of memey nowadays, but I'm going to put it in the so-so tier. It's just kind of a jokey one. Now, I think there was a stat. I think it was like Americans spend like $1 million on avocado toast a month, which I thought was pretty funny. And that was back in 2017. So who knows now with the inflation, it's probably like $2 or $3 million a month. All right, now we're getting through this. I saved the best for last, the wedding. And nowadays, weddings are costing around $29,000 on average. And definitely depending on where you're at in your relationship, you could be pretty young or even older, but that's a huge cost to people, especially if you're young. If you're just starting out and you're spending $30,000 on a wedding, that could be a huge financial burden and a financial destruction. That could set you back for 5-10 years just for that. Now, I'm not saying don't do it. I like when people get married. I think it's awesome. But just understand where you're at financially and make smart decisions when you're going through all that stuff. So let's look at this TikTok, the last one. All right, that one was a little overboard, but you get the gist. Now I'm gonna put weddings in the B tier. It's a one-time thing that is a lot of money, kind of like the student loans ish. 30-ish grand, 40 grand. It's a huge deal. Don't get me wrong, but I'm gonna put them in the B tier. Let me know what you think. I think this is pretty decent. Let me know in the comments if you disagree with a lot of my stuff. I'm sure there will be a lot on the house, maybe the student loans, but that's it for me. If you like this one and you want other financial people to do it, just hit up Graham Stephan or like Humphrey Yang or those, tag them or whatever. Let's kind of make this a thing. So if you made it to the end, like and subscribe. I'm gonna be here pumping out some more videos. I'm not sure which one I'm doing next, but just hit subscribe to stay tuned. See ya.